Yes, my stream is up and ready. Thank you, Robo, for this collab. I very much appreciate it, and it means a lot to me that, you saying you're inspired by me and feel like I have, good quality in my content. I feel like I'm lucky to have been able to collab with you as well, and I'm so glad we were able to do this today. Thank you very much.
The 64. 64 knowledge. Bam!
Yeah, and here we are, everybody. Here we are on my channel.
Woo!
Woo!
We're on your channel, yay!
With the fun little N64 logo in the top corner. And Robo is dressed for N64 top 10 time. Yeah, yeah, right? I know, right, Crush? Even more colorful now. Woo!
Yeah, thank you again for having me with your top 10. I very much appreciate that. And yeah. So thank you. I guess we're on your channel now. So we are here with the Nintendo 64. I'll let you do your introductions. I think you already did.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know
But
we did
yeah,
on your
I'm
channel,
here.
but in case anybody is new or came in after we did introductions on Robo's channel, again, like, I am Kissa Cunivello, a cat wizard VTuber who variety streams and is a musician. I'm quite happy and grateful today to have this fun collab with Robo finally, after us wanting to do this for quite some time. And would you like to introduce yourself again, Robo?
Yeah, absolutely. Y'all, I'm Robo. I'm a dude. I'm a person. I like to play games. I like to play all kinds of games. Um, throw a game at me. Does not matter if it's rated E. Does not matter if it's rated R or M. I guess what they would say. Um, I'm gonna play a game. I'm gonna just be myself. I'm a nerd. I'm a proclaimed nerd, and yeah, I just like to have fun. I like to be myself, and yeah, that's me. Woo!
Okay, and now we're
That's
like,
my introduction.
yeah, okay. Now, let's get on to the top 10 for N64. And I feel like, okay, this is a no particular order type list. I'm probably just going to go in alphabetical order again. Starting for me with Diddy Kong Racing, which I now have a picture of the box art on the screen. I absolutely loved Diddy Kong Racing. Absolutely, hands down, my favorite ever racing game. Seriously. I loved it that it had an adventure mode where you could go around and, find all of the different courses and, some balloons to unlock courses. I loved it that, they had all these adorable, animal characters to choose from to play. Also, that this was one of those rare racing games, I think, where you could be a car, you could be a plane, or you could be a hovercraft. depending on the course. And that was always really fun. And you also had bosses that you could race against too. Like, one of them was a triceratops, there was an octopus, a walrus, and a dragon. And yes, Crush, I know, I remember that too. The main villain, called Whizpig, yeah, he cheated. He totally cheated. And so did the other bosses that you had to race. And you had to, like, figure out ways to not just race better on the track, but somehow get ahead of them and stay ahead of them to beat them, which was hard because each and every one of them in some fashion gave themselves a head start. There were also challenges where you, like, had to collect coins or be the first to collect, I think, 10 coins or 10 bananas or hatch 3 dinosaur eggs. You know, things like that were fun as well.
For sure. I will say, if you don't mind me butting a little
I
bit,
don't mind.
Diddy Kong Racing was super fun because, like Kessa said, you could be in a race car, you could be in a hovercraft, or an airplane, just like in the picture above. Um, and you had your special routes. Like if you went through a hovercraft, you might go into like a little cave and then like go a different way, or you might fly. Wizpig did always cheat. That is confirmed. Um, but yeah, no, the characters in that game also were just so lively. I did like the genie, and I will say that my favorite character was a character known as Tiger, which is actually all the way in the far back on the cover.
Well, yeah, Timber, I think,
But
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
And then they had some characters like Banjo before Banjo Kazooie was a game on the 64, and I was like, oh, he's in the game, and he's
Mhm.
also in Diddy Kong Racing. Like they kind of promoted possible future games, while also doing it in a racing game, and I thought that was super fun. And their power ups were, I mean, they weren't exactly like Mario Kart, and it was super cool because like they leveled up as
Yeah, they
you
did.
collected them.
Yeah, and I very much liked that about it too. Because it was fun to just keep collecting them and leveling them up and then use them at a more powerful level for things like a shield or boosting or, well, yeah, essentially being able to, you know, shoot the other players. And I very much enjoyed finding all the little special passageways between, like, in the courses, you know, the secret routes, so to speak, that are there that, you know, the shortcuts. I was always very good at finding those. And I really liked the mode where when you would get through it the first time, beat the boss the first time, and then go at it again at those courses with each level, you would have to do the silver coin challenge and find all the silver coins and win in order to move on. And I tend to be good at, like, finding those and remembering where those are. And you also had to unlock the challenges, like the ones where you have to collect like 10 bananas first or 10 coins first or, you know, hatch the dino eggs. You would have to unlock those by finding a key in, like, one of the tracks in each of the different areas. And I feel like still to this day, you know, even when I have maybe issues remembering, you know, things that, like, just happened, or even just silly things like what I ate for breakfast or something now, I swear, if I were ever to play that game again, Diddy Kong Racing, I would remember where each and every key was, where each and every silver coin was, like, all of it, all of the collectibles. Like, I would seriously remember, like, the shortcuts, everything, even now.
Yeah, I'm gonna say another thing is that I like the ice stages actually in that game, and then
Yeah.
I like how they had like a battle mode, and um in general, like the game once again did feel very lively, and because they had like a scavenger hunt or like collectathon type of thing in the courses while also racing, like you had to do both at sometimes. um it made you really like see like, oh, there might be a secret over here, or there might be something hidden there, and it made the course feel like a world. It made it feel life,
Mm-hmm.
like it was is really lively.
Well, yeah, and again, really loved the music in Diddy Kong Racing. Because again, was like for the most part really fun, upbeat, like synthesizer based music.
Ba-bum, ba-bum. So good.
Yeah, and I guess I found it interesting, thinking about like even today, like even now, sometimes I might, get on YouTube and find playlists of the music from Diddy Kong Racing and still like listen to it because I feel like it was really good, memorable video game music.
Yeah, when I got time, I gotta draw like our characters, and maybe I'll put us in like an aircraft or like a cart. Kind of like a cover like this. Like the
Mm-hmm.
64 cover, but you know, so it's being like, oh, look at all the fun. Look at this darn pig wizard. This giant
Yeah,
pig
he was
wizard.
trying to chase us. Yeah.
Oh no, he's in my nightmares.
Yeah. Okay, and that's probably one of those games where I could easily, maybe if I wanted to, like talk about it for a long time. But I can like move on to like another one in still no particular order. But okay, next, at least alphabetically for me. I know I've mentioned it before, even though it wasn't on the top 10 list for GameCube. But okay, I put Mario Golf here for N64. This was the first Mario Golf game. I guess this
Hmm.
one here over the one that was on the GameCube, I guess for me, because I also fondly remember. Okay, there was also a Mario Golf Game Boy Color game, I believe, that I had. And an interesting function of it is that if you got an N64, was it called an expansion pack? Maybe there's this device with the N64 that you could plug into a controller and then essentially connect a Game Boy game to it and then transfer characters and other things from the Game Boy game to the N64 game. And I did that with the Mario Golf game. I mean, just making and leveling up characters. They were just original characters, not like already established Mario characters, and then transferring them into the game. And I remember having a lot of fun with that. In addition to the fact that Mario sports games are always a very fun, whimsical time.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I you know, it, so some people may say a lot of the golf games are the same. Um, but it's how you present it and how you like make courses and how you do like win and everything. Um, I had only seen this game played a little bit. I didn't play it myself. Um, I didn't find it very often in stores. Maybe everyone just bought the game, or there was just limited copies. Because um, back in the day, like if you went to a if you went to a place known as like a Walmart, or you went to a store, um, sometimes they wouldn't have very many copies, and you couldn't just buy something on eBay or Amazon like you can now. Like things were different. So I think that's really cool that you got to play Mario Golf. That's great.
Yeah, and I believe, okay, this is one of many on my list that I believe is available now on Nintendo Switch Online for the N64 collection of games. You know, so, like, if anyone wanted to try this exact game, they could now without having to have an N64. I mean, I wish that were the case with Diddy Kong Racing, but if they are going to add it, which I wish they would, but I don't know. They haven't so far. And, you know, I can even just move on from there. And, okay, I know I've already, like, mentioned Mario Party twice. I mean, on Robo's stream, but once again, you know,
We love
I
Mario Party.
I absolutely love Mario Party, always have. And I felt like I had to have my favorite N64 Mario Party here for this list. Mario Party 3. I mean, I've played all three of them, but I would choose this one because, okay, it's the first Mario Party that Daisy was a playable character in, and, like, she's one of my favorite Mario characters. Because, like, even though I, like, played as Peach in the first couple of games when Daisy wasn't an option, you know, I mean, I hope things get better and are different for Peach in the future, but I don't know. I mean, I kind of was, like, maybe a bit frustrated that, pretty commonly in Mario games, Peach is kind of just there, I guess, and getting kidnapped by Bowser most of the time. Whereas, you know, stuff like that didn't seem to happen to Daisy, in addition to the fact that, you know, I loved her, you know, cheerful tomboy sort of a vibe as a character, and, well, she's dressed in orange, which is my favorite color. I mean, I know, yeah, you would think my favorite color was purple because, you know, Avatar's hair here is purple, and, well, I do really like purple. Actually, no, my favorite color is orange. But, yeah, I very much would choose Mario Party 3 as my favorite of the N64 Mario parties. Well, it did have Daisy for the first time. Also Waluigi. And, you know, it had fun mini games. And I think it even had mini game modes. Maybe that was the start of them having actual mini game modes, possibly, I think. Which I always found very fun. And other than that, I kind of appreciated that, at least in that one. Okay, a problem the N64 Mario Party games had is that, at least, especially in the very first one, there were lots of mini games where you would have to use your control stick, spin your control stick around, and usually one would do that by, you know, putting the palm of their hand on the control stick and, like, spinning really fast, which could easily like, damage the palm of your hand and, like, hurt. But they didn't, like, do those as much in the other Mario parties, even on the N64. They, you know, got away from trying to do mini games like that. I mean, I remember those moments, even with the first one, where with those mini games, like, that could happen, even if I was trying to be careful. Yeah, and, like, ouch. But yeah, they did better with
So
the mini games for like 3.
yeah, like I will say, there was a particular game in the first game that you were on this tricycle or like this exercise bike, and you had to light up a bulb, and you had to
Mm-hmm.
rotate the controller stick really really fast, like to get it to full power, so then the boo didn't get you this ghost.
Mm-hmm.
And that mini game alone caused people to be like, can I get a can we like, get some ointment, because we tore the middle of our
Mm-hmm.
our palms rotating the stick as fast as possible. And
Yeah.
I think Mario Party 3 had a wind up Shy Guy game where it was kind of similar.
Well, yeah, I think they at the very least had less of those in 3 from what I remember. But they had at least a
Yeah.
couple, and I thought I remembered, some other ones that were kind of like that. I thought there was like a tug of war sort of
Oh
game with a
yes.
rope that was like a 1 versus 3 mini game that I remembered being a control stick spinner. And I remember with that one too, like I had issues with hurting the palm of my hand.
We did it to win. No pain, no gain.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind if I say a few things about Mario Party
No, I
3?
don't.
Oh, okay. So like I loved Mario Party 3. The story was wonderful. It was the new year. It was the millennia. And so they had the whole like 2000 like theme around it, and it was really really cool. Um and they had this cute, like they did a fun opening. Like everything was like picture books. Um
Yeah, I remember that.
and yeah, yeah. And I think there's like a mode to where you could play on like a board, and you had like your own little pet, and that was really cool. Um and yeah, like Mario Party, it was just very lively. The courses were lively. They had like little NPCs, and they were doing a lot. It's super fun, and I personally love Waluigi. So a game that has a special board just for Waluigi, nice treat for me.
Yeah, even though, Daisy, obviously, one of my favorite characters, I also actually like Waluigi too, so, I liked it that, well, this was also the first one that he appeared in. He also appeared in the sports games as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, a little fun fact is that Waluigi appeared in America in Mario Party, um, before tennis. Um, they appeared in Japan, obviously in tennis first, but game delays and different
Mm-hmm.
time zones and shipments, um, localizing games made things different. So a lot of games came out around the same time. I think the N64's lifespan was actually only 3 years, which it feels like much longer personally. But I love the 64.
Yeah, and I guess moving on to the next one for me, alphabetically, Pilot Wings 64. A fun, but definitely challenging, well, I don't know, kind of maybe a flight simulation type game almost, because you like had these 6 different characters you could choose from, all named after birds, and 3 male, 3 female, of different sizes and like weights that did affect how they did. And everything was like themed like you're doing some kind of flight test and getting medals. And there's something called a gyrocopter, which is like this thing that's in the picture for the like album cover. I'm in music mode. Game cover. This thing is a gyrocopter.
Yeah.
And you could also do a hang glider and a jetpack. You could also unlock different things, where one of the special things you could unlock as a bonus mode was essentially human cannonball, where your like character you chose would be in a cannon, you would fire them at a target. And another thing was, well, not a hang glider, but a special mode that, wasn't timed, wasn't really a test or anything, that where you could just have them fly around the map, almost like with what looked like wings, and I think it was called Birdman. So that was kind of fun, relaxing thing where you could just fly around maps that were used for different tests in the game at your own leisure. Also, there's, another special bonus thing called Jumble Hopper, where it's like you're moving your character around and they're like bouncing like up and down on, special almost platform shoe looking things to make them just jump or bounce really high in the air, and then they land back down. You have to like guide them to the target on the course, preferably without them like bumping into something and like crashing. So yeah, a lot of different fun and interesting things to do, and lots of tests for each one. And there are things like for the hang glider, for one of the tests, or at least a couple different ones, you have to fly them around to a specific thing you're supposed to take good pictures of it, according to the game, and then land on the target. Even though that can be kind of hard, depending on what it is they want you to photograph and where you need to land. Yeah, my mom is like in the chat going, I love the scream when the characters were shot from the cannon. Uh-huh. Yeah, uh-huh. It was just like this like really loud, sudden, like high-pitched when they were like launched from the cannon at the targets, and you hope they would land on the target, but it was very hard sometimes to figure out how to line things up to get them to hit the target and get a bullseye on the target. And a lot of times it would just be funny. It's even when you get them in the target, it's just really funny and fun to watch, whether you're playing or watching someone else play it, because it's just like they're stuck like halfway in the target with their like legs flailing around. So that's just a very funny, silly game that's a part of it.
Yeah, I think that's super cool. I didn't play this game particularly, but I always like looked at it and I was all like, huh. And then I was like, oh, I'm a kid. I don't have money to rent every game under the sun. And but like, so there were some games that I didn't play until later. And I might have played this one a little bit, but I don't have too much memories of it. There was a year I did try and play every single 64 game. But from your memories, it seems like a really great time.
Well, yeah, it was.
And I was saying before, just like the special details that older games had when it came to like, screams and noises and sound effects, like there's so much love, and um, glad you had a wonderful memory with this game.
Well, yeah, I did. I mean, even though those games, those like different little, they call them tests with each of those different things, could be pretty challenging. I still had fun trying and, trying to figure each of them out anyway, even when it was hard, and trying to reach a point where I like got the gold badges for the different things. Yeah, so I just fondly remember it. And this is another game that is actually on Switch Online. And I have, like, more recently, and well, when I was a kid, tried to play it because of that and go, wow, how did I do this as well as I did as a kid at times? Because, geez, this game is hard.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's how I feel with like some games that I played when I was younger. I was like, how did I do this? I don't. I was just little, and my hands were little, and the 64 controller, y'all. If you don't know what it looks like, um, it's it's huge for someone that is that is little or has small hands. Like, um, and it was designed in a way to where you had two hands on it, but you had to like extend your thumb to touch the D-pad. But otherwise, you're going to be using the stick and hitting the A, B buttons and the yellow buttons.
Yeah, it's like
and
anyone.
And the triggers.
Yeah, anyone who doesn't know like what those controllers are like, those are like kind of strange controllers with like three things that you could like hold on to at any given time, and you only have two hands, so kind of interesting controller design. You're like one, like the left side there's a D-pad, the right side there's a control stick, like a yellow control stick, in the middle there's a like gray control stick. So like you'd only hold on to two parts of it at any one time. Kind of a funky controller.
I guess the next game?
Yeah. On to the next one. In alphabetical order. I love this game, Pokemon Puzzle League. And it's another one that's available on Switch Online. I love this game. I really like Pokemon. I like puzzle games. Really enjoyed playing this, and I still do now on Switch Online. Because, well, not really like Tetris, I guess, but you had these blocks, and you had to match them up, and you got more points if you made, combos of like multiple of the same block, or chains where you figured out a way to make blocks fall, sets of blocks fall one right after the other to like build and make, more bigger chains that made even bigger blocks to go on your opponent. And, that's one of those games that like I got really good at and was like even playing against like I think the super hard computers too, and was managing to like beat them as well, and managed to learn how to do these like chains and these combos effectively to make like these huge like garbage blocks, they're called, to like go on the other side on my opponent that you have to like clear by clearing blocks under them layer by layer to get rid of them. And it had these other fun game modes too that weren't the main one, like one called Spa Service that featured Team Rocket, Jesse and James and Meowth, and they weren't especially convincing trying to disguise themselves to like fit into certain environments like that they were in for the different rounds of that game, where that was just a line clear game. You just had to clear all your blocks below the line to move on to the next stage. And there's another mode where it was kind of more puzzle game-ish, where you were given a set of blocks in a certain way. It was the Puzzle League Academy, I think it was called, where you had to do that and then figure out how to, in a specific number of moves, clear all the blocks. And I enjoyed that too, even though some of those were kind of hard. And I remember having like fun memories still of it because, well, especially, okay, this one that I know I've maybe talked about on my own streams before, but I don't mind talking about it again. Okay, each of the characters, there's like their voice lines that they say, well, kind of repeatedly, I guess, in this game. And one of them for Blaine, when anyone plays as Blaine, is really supposed
Mm-hmm.
to be oh so close. But I swear, even like when I was younger, and still now, I feel like, okay, I know it's really oh so close, or it's supposed to be, but okay, seriously, what I heard, and I think what my mom heard too, was oh dog crap, which made sense to both of
Oh,
us at the time because he had an Arcanine.
yeah. Yeah. I think Blaine's from the Kanto region, so yeah, that definitely makes sense. Um, and yeah, I loved. I played this game twice, and both times I played it, I got absolutely demolished. Um, I played on stream once, and I was like, "Whoa." And I love puzzle games, but this game seemed very unique. Like they definitely tried something different with the elements, and I don't know, like correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was like voice line. Oh, like you just said, but I thought it was cool that there was voice lines. Considering that like voice acting wasn't very common in video games around this time.
Yeah, but they used it like in this game. And well, I guess that was the most memorable one for me just because like we misheard it and it was funny with the whole like oh dog crap instead of oh so close. But yeah, very much a fun game. Well, I certainly thought so.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun playing it the few times I did.
Yeah, and like moving on from there to the next one, another Pokemon game. Pokemon Snap. The first one of these, if anyone's familiar with this at all, or thinks they are, well, there is a new Pokemon Snap on the Switch, well, which I also have and have played some of. But this was the first one on the N64. A very fun, unique, special game where you just go around in this little vehicle on this track and take pictures of Pokemon and hope that Professor Oak likes your photographs when you're done. And there was this fun element
Yeah,
to it where, okay, when Blockbuster existed, there was this kiosk you could go to if you wanted to print pictures that you took in your Pokemon Snap game as like little stickers. Yeah, and that was fun.
yeah, I loved the Blockbuster. I remember doing that myself. Um, that and then there's these things called Lunchables, and they had like little Pokemon stamps on the side of them, and I was like, oh my goodness, I can get my Pokemon little stamps from Blockbuster, and then I got my tasty Lunchables. Hashtag not sponsored, but oh my
Mm-hmm.
goodness, Lunchables! If you wanna send some things my way, more than
Yeah,
welcome.
alas, poor Blockbuster, yes, it is gone.
Do you have anything else that you want to say about this game? Or
Well, yeah,
can I talk about it a
well,
little bit?
I really enjoyed this game. Well, I mean, I like the newer one too, even though definitely like this one, the first one. Is always fun. Well, especially because there were these like secrets in the courses that you had to find in order to like get to the next course. And these like things called Pokemon signs that you had to like get the Pokemon to do or make for you to photograph to move on to the next area. You know, fun little secrets and things. And they're all different sorts of poses that you had to figure out how to get them to make that would get you more points that were fun, like Pikachu on a surfboard, you know, stuff like that. It was always very fun. And it could be funny sometimes when you might have trouble taking photos and Professor Oak is obviously not impressed with what you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, you can like add what you're going to say about the game.
So, without giving too many spoilers, definitely check out this game if you possibly can. And then on top of that, like they have apples in this game, and you can throw apples at the Pokemon, and some of them will like get knocked out, or some of them will eat a little apple. And I thought it was very cute if when they like ate the apple, and the environment is really fun. Like it's like a little roller coaster, and um, you get to sightsee and you got to explore. And I don't think there's a real way to say it without a spoiler, but there's not a experience like it. Um, if you have the opportunity, I think this one's on the Switch, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like
it is
on
too.
the 64, is it not?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, if you do have the 64 expansion pack, and you can play Pokemon Snap, I highly recommend it. It is a wonderful game. There's a lot of secrets, and you know what? It's really cozy. I remember uh I remember this game. I think this game made me better at photography, to be honest. It's like when taking selfies and when taking like group pictures, I'd be like, okay, I gotta get the max amount of points. So I gotta get
Mm-hmm.
everybody in the middle, or I gotta get this, make sure that the picture's not blurry. Like I think I paid more attention to things like that
Well,
because of
yeah, it's one of
Pokemon
those that
Snap.
makes you think about things like that even when you're just taking pictures after having played the game, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely a good one to try, you know, if you'd like to, that is available on Switch Online in the N64 like expansion pack. Definitely worth trying. Like next one, alphabetically in my list, actually, I put Rayman 2: The Great Escape here. I mean, I know like well, people might question this, like my mom or something maybe, I don't know, because like there was this one level of it that I really did not like that you have to get through to like finish the game because you can't avoid it. But other than that, I seriously did like really enjoy this like quirky platformer and think it was fun, and like the different little puzzles to figure out in it were interesting. And, you know, Rayman himself is just kind of a fun, quirky character, you know, as you see right there on the game box. No neck, no arms, no legs, but, you know, somehow in his world, all his, like, parts of him, you know, stay together. How? We still don't know. But, yeah, so very quirky, interesting platformer game, you know, and different power-ups as you go along, and very colorful, quirky environments in the levels, and interesting characters you meet along the way. And kind of like fun, quirky, surreal things. Like, okay, there are levels where you have to go down rivers of lava on a plum, of all things. It's like, how is this plum not melting? Okay, let's not worry about that. Let's not think about it. For some reason in Rayman's world it works. And other than that, there's this part where there's like a walking bombshell. That's literally what it is, but it's like it lives in a little doghouse, and like you have to lure it out of its little doghouse, and you know, for a certain amount of time, and then it's ready for you to like seriously ride it through part of the level, and you have to like make it to the next part of the level. And you know, it's like it starts out living in a doghouse, and when it's ready for you to like ride on it, it like neighs like a horse. It's like this very weird, quirky thing, but very memorable. And then you just fly off on it, and it's kind of dangerous though, because if you hit a wall or something, you explode and you have to try again. You know, it just has a lot of funky little things like that. And well, the level I speak of in terms of not liking it, okay, it's one that like as a kid anyway, like really kind of unnerved me or creeped me out, called The Cave of Bad Dreams, that had kind of unsettling music and like these arms or hands that reached out and grabbed you at random moments. You know, things like that. And like even the end of the level, to get out of it, like the enemy of the level, it's like their mouth with fangs and everything is like around the edges of the screen as the border, as you're like trying to run away from that character. It's like, ah. But despite, you know, that level in itself, which I still wouldn't really like today, but would probably be okay or feel better about going through as an adult versus like how it creeped me out when I was a kid, I did honestly like the game and appreciate it and think that the problem solving bits of it were fun to get through. And I have played other Rayman games and enjoyed them too.
Yeah, I played the Rayman games on the PlayStation, personally, and I thought Rayman was a fun character, like the climbing mechanics and the arms, the music, and I enjoyed Rayman. That's really all I got to say about Rayman 2. That I can't really add anything that you really didn't already say.
Yeah, and I can like move on from that one. Okay, and this one, which I know like you told me you're kind of surprised to see, but and I know people wouldn't usually think of it with N64, but I really enjoyed the Space Invaders game on the N64. I mean, I hadn't played any kind of Space Invaders before that, but enjoyed the version of it they did for the N64, where they seemed to have, you know, it wasn't updated from the original like retro games that were Space Invaders, you know, graphically and everything, and with each set of aliens that you had to get rid of, essentially. Hi, dragon. You had to, like, there was a special kind of alien that operated differently, like, than the standard ones, and you have to figure out how each of those works so you'd be able to, like, clear them out of the stage too. And some of them would be pretty odd and tricky to have to figure out and deal with, because okay, there was one kind called, like, I think a kamikaze, where if you have to shoot it once, move to the side, because it would try to drop down on you, like, to avoid getting killed by it. You know, things like that, and then other ones that function differently or than that you had to watch out for in the plain levels. And then at the end of each world that there were levels for, there would be a boss alien that you had to deal with its own mechanics that you had to figure out. Oh yeah, and my mom is saying it was very close, she thought, to the arcade version she played tons of before home consoles were even a thing. Yeah, so I very much
Yeah.
enjoyed like figuring out the different aliens and bosses to like work through the game, and I did actually manage to clear the entire game, many times, and unlocked the original classic mode and tried some of that, because that's a thing if you beat the game, is that you can unlock the classic mode and play it. So I thought that was cool too, so I could experience that version that she experienced.
Yeah, that's really cool. I played the older one as well. I played a lot of Space Invaders Galactica back in the olden times. But I loved the series. I did not play much of this one, so it's kind of cool knowing that someone played this game. Once again, I was a young lad when this game came out, so didn't have the money resources to just pick things. I had to be very particular of what I can rent and what do I want to spend the opportunity to rent. But I didn't see this one actually very often at Blockbusters or Hollywood Videos, so I thought it was very cool that you got the opportunity to play Space Invaders for the 64.
Yeah, and like I owned this one and, very much enjoyed it. So that's why it's on my list. Even if it's maybe not, I guess, one of the first games for sure that anybody would think of with N64. Yeah, that's one of the few on my list that isn't really there for the Switch Online. Well, Rayman 2 isn't either. And moving on from that, next one for me, a total classic that I actually streamed via the Switch Online here on my channel last year, Super Mario 64, which I did indeed play as a kid on the N64 first. And, yes, the cameras are still really frustrating, or they can be at least, based on how the cameras work in today's games versus how that one was in that one, even though, even for its time, that was good in its day, at its time. And I remember as a kid, I don't think I was as bothered by the camera as I was, well, more recently as an adult trying to play that game. Even though, still have fond memories because, my first Mario platformer game was Super Mario 64. And it was my first N64 game too. And did enjoy like all the little secrets and puzzles and things, even when it got frustrating. Just very much a classic game, even though I must admit all of the Mario platformers I've played since then, much improved in terms of like camera and all sorts of other things, like Odyssey, for example, what's on the Switch. Much better in like terms of, cameras and everything in that.
It definitely took them a long time to figure out the camera angle thing for sure. That's what I want to add. Because I remember this game called Mario Sunshine. I know we just left the GameCube area, but even though we're in the past where you don't know what a GameCube is. But there was like special stages on this game called Mario Sunshine, and I still remember how bad the camera angles were. I was like, oh. Um, but you know what? It didn't stop those games from being fun. So, um, or maybe it did for some people. But um, that it, it that's the charm to it, right? Like they're able to make something exciting or make someone want to overcome the obstacle without giving up. And Mario Sunshine was ahead of its time. It not Mario Sunshine. Mario 64 was ahead of its time. They were both ahead of its time. And I think they did a great job.
Well, yes, they very much had things about them that were, at the time, ahead of their time, for certain. Even though, if we look back at them now, there are those things, like the camera that make us go, really? Wow, it was like this back then? Because it's made more obvious now, based on how the camera even is now, that yes, there's been lots of improvement. I mean, I don't know how I missed playing it originally, like on the GameCube, but didn't actually, at the time, play Mario Sunshine, even though I do actually have a copy of the game that I got like much later on when it's like only available at used game stores, intending to try to play it, and I maybe only played a little bit of it really, like as an adult. And yeah, I agree with you, the camera is still kind of frustrating, and there's still some really hard like shine sprites to get. Definitely. But, those games are still very enjoyable even now, even despite there being advances in how the cameras and other things operate in the games.
I do have a question for you before we go on to the next game. My question is, do you have a favorite level in Mario 64?
A favorite level? Let me think here. I mean, and some people might think this is weird because, it's like one of the water levels, but is it? I want to say it's like dry dock or something, like whatever the first one is that's a water level, but I think, like,
Yeah, the
honestly,
one with
as
the
like the,
giant eel.
yeah, the one with the beautiful, well, to me anyway, music that plays when you're like in that level,
Mm-hmm.
like for the water level. I just love that music, and that's, I don't know, it's kind of nice, calming, beautiful music that even when I would get frustrated trying to get the stars that were on that level, I wouldn't be, I guess, as upset or frustrated because, hey, I just have more time where I hear this nice music. And I mean, I can
Yeah, I
easily
think.
probably give a least favorite level for that one too. Okay, one of them for me, Shifting Sandland, definitely. It's like, that one was really hard. Really, really hard. With all the quicksand everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. And then like the movable cubes that could like smash you,
Mm-hmm.
and um, I think there was like shy guys that could like shoot fireballs at you, and
Yeah, and they flew
something
around.
like there was like a bird that could steal your hat.
Yes.
There's just a lot of stuff that
So
happened
many
in the
hazards in
desert.
that one. I mean, I also kind of didn't like and struggled a lot with um the like lava level too.
Oh yes. Like there was like a puzzle thing in that one. I'm not trying to spoil things for people, but yeah, the game NNN has a lot of cool designs, and if you have the opportunity, please check it out, even now, or watch somebody play. If you're a person that doesn't like to play games but you like to watch them, go check them out. a super small tidbit. That's one of the reasons why I watch Kissa. I was like, whoa, they're playing the Mario. I didn't look it up actually. I actually don't remember how I found you, but I saw that you were playing the game, and I was like, whoa, I love this game, and I love haunted man a ghost level. There's a ghost level, y'all. But that's my favorite level, and basically, um, like there's just a lot of fun memories. That it didn't need to have NPCs and it didn't need to have like story, but like there's a story about a little bomb. There's a story about a penguin, and that's all I'm gonna say without any more spoilers. But yeah, like the game was very lively for sure.
Well, yeah, and I remember like another level that, well, it was kind of challenging, but I found it kind of quirky and interesting too. Was, I believe it was called TikTok Clock. You had to like go inside the clock. And it was seriously like you were inside a clock
Mm-hmm.
when you were like doing that to like get all the stars. And I found that interesting, and it was kind of challenging, at least when the parts of the clock were moving. It was still kind of fun and unique. And especially a mechanic that you had to take advantage of to possibly stop the clock in order to make some stars easier to get when you're inside. Because then if you could do that, then you didn't have to worry about all the clock parts moving. Because sometimes, depending on how you try to go into the course, it can be stopped entirely. It can be moving, but kind of slowly, or it can be moving really fast, which makes things really hard to do when you're inside the clock. So usually the best thing for most of the stars was to make it so you would get in there so the clock was stopped, to make it easier to get, I think, all but one of them, which had to have the clock move, the parts move, for you to get the star. But yeah, I found that one pretty interesting.
And one more thing to add before we go on to the next game. Just to add on to the clock thing, that was so revolutionary and such a memorable part that um like the water dock level and the clock level, they were both put in Mario Party games. Um and I will never forget Dory. Well, because of it was put in Mario Party as well.
Well, yeah, it was like Dory, like the Loch Ness monster type creature, is actually kind of adorable, like in the Mario games. Yeah, because I remember that showing up in maybe the Hazy Maze Cave, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, so very much this is another one you can check out on Switch Online, and again, the camera can make things frustrating a lot of times, but probably still worth it to give this one a try if you haven't before, or even if you have. And moving on finally
Absolutely.
to my last one, another like nostalgic thing for me, and well, another racing game, because I've always really enjoyed racing games, although not necessarily the standard realistic ones. Wave Race 64, where you're like racing on jet skis.
Yeah, before you start talking about it, I never played this one on the 64, but there was an arcade. Um and this sounds outdated, but like you could actually get on a jet ski and they would blow air conditioning and you would actually get the play levels, and it would be like, give me all your quarters, and I'm like, okay. but it was cool.
Well, yeah, I didn't ever play an arcade version of it. Well, I played Wave Race 64. Well, I also played its like sequel, Blue Storm, on the GameCube. And I mean, I like that one too. I mean, I didn't put it in my top 10 for the GameCube, because I like just had the others that I felt I wanted to put there instead. But you know, still that one good too. Like there were only like 4 characters with this first one on the 64. But you know, I still enjoyed it and still have fond memories of playing this. This is also available on the Switch Online for the N64 like expansion pack if anyone wants to try it. Kind of, I guess, more difficult in some ways as a racing type game because there aren't really any power-ups. There are no weapons, really. It's kind of a thing where you need, like, there are these, like, buoys in the water where you need to pass by them on the correct side throughout the course to avoid powering down, which makes you lose speed. And also, if you, like, miss 5 of those, you're out of the race. You're done. And there's not really much in the way of trying to get ahead of other racers. It's kind of one where you kind of just have to race well in the course and hope that you're doing better than the others, like including the like computer racers, because there aren't really ways to like recover. Yeah, kind of almost like F-Zero. I mean, you can't explode. I mean, I guess you can sort of kind of rank out when you're doing the like one player I think championship mode, because you have to place high enough to get enough points to keep going throughout that mode to like make it to the end. So even though there's not that issue of, oh, you'll explode, there is an issue of if you miss too many buoys, you're out. And if you don't place high enough to get enough points, you won't be able to progress in that mode to like to the next course. So I guess it's closer to F-Zero than, I don't know, something like Mario Kart or Diddy Kong Racing.
Yeah, for sure. Also, I once again I didn't really play much of this game, besides the arcade, but I did look at some images from the 64 version, and even on the 64, I remember looking at the water and being like, whoa, it's pretty.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
I wish I
amazingly,
could draw water
yeah.
like this.
Yeah, the water actually was really nice looking. And, like, I guess I'm still surprised now that, like, even then they got the water looking like that. You know, obviously still for at least the characters and, you know, the jet skis, you know, standard polygons.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know, was, I don't, kind of weird, graphically speaking, against the very pretty, you know, fairly more realistic looking water.
I love water, y'all.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say, um, I'm gonna add something that's not exactly related to the 64 real quick. I've been on an actual Sea-Doo, and that's what they're called if they're not like jet skis. Um, but I've accidentally tipped over one and then lost all the gasoline. Then I had to swim like 3 miles to get to the shore. But we go on a ski-doo, try not to tip it over. And the ocean is scary, but it's also really pretty. Do it if you have the opportunity.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things, like, I mean, I've not actually been on any kind of, like, Sea-Doo jet ski, like, at all. Even though it's one of those things where I keep thinking, you know, I wonder, I wonder if it's, like, fun to, like, ride on one of those. Well, as long as you manage to, like, stay upright and not fall off it.
Yeah. Um, personal experience, they're pretty fun.
Yeah, it's one of those things I've like been curious about and wondered, should I ever try that? I don't know. I mean, how hard is it to stay on them is the question.
So, um, I will say that it's not exactly. You gotta worry about the wind. You gotta worry about the wind, and if you're in the ocean and not in a lake, you gotta worry about the waves, because tidal waves are very, very strong. The ocean is kind of scary. Um, if you get hit by a big wave, even if you're surfing or bodyboarding, um, the current can easily make someone who weighs anywhere from like 120 to like 300 pounds. Even like a 300-pound person can like spin around in a ball because of the strength of a wave, and you have to like swim your way back up, and then you're gonna have salt water in your eyes, which might blind you a little bit. So the ocean's definitely a lot more scarier with the Sea-Doo, but a lake is a lot more, yeah.
Yeah, I
But
see my
for my
mom's
sanity, please
comments
try
in
it
the
on.
chat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A
you
lake is
should
a
try it.
lot safer. But I will say, um, try and do it. Like, look it up if there's like catfish in that lake. As catfish can be 150 pounds, even. And those you don't want a 150-pound fish ramming your boat, your
Yeah, I,
Sea-Doo
I, I
or your
don't think.
ski.
Yeah, I don't think you would. Yeah, I see my mom's comments. You should try, but for my sanity, please try it on a lake, not in the ocean. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would be more comfortable like trying that on a lake for sure. Definitely one of those things that I thought I wanted to try at some point because I don't know, it just kind of looks like fun or seems like it would be fun in real life. I guess just having played wave race games. And other than that, like, even though I really enjoy and have definite nostalgia for this original wave race game, I mean, I played the other one on the GameCube, as I mentioned before, even if I didn't put it high enough to be on my top 10 list. Still enjoyed it, had like more characters in it, like at least 8 characters as opposed to 4. So that was nice,
Mm-hmm.
and each of them had different qualities, and like some were harder to use than others, and or were lighter or heavier than others, which affected how they were to steer around in the courses. And it had an interesting weather mechanic where it would have weather like rain and other things that would affect how easy or not it was actually to make it through the courses, which I found kind of like difficult to deal with and sometimes like more frustrating, even if it definitely like added something to the game. And I found it interesting that, okay, I didn't include this on my N64 list, even though I also played a game called 1080 Snowboarding that was on the
Mm-hmm.
N64. And I'm only mentioning it because, okay, even though I enjoyed that too, even if I didn't quite put it on my top 10 list, in like the sequel to Wave Race 64, they had like 3 of the characters were ones that came from 1080 snowboarding that they added to that game in addition to the main Wave Race characters, plus 2 totally new ones, which I found cool and interesting as someone who liked Wave Race and 1080 snowboarding. Yeah, I know it's like the GameCube one, not the N64 one, but I mean, I'm just adding that because I did play the GameCube one too.
Yeah. Once again, I think that's cool, really cool. I think there was like one for the Xbox when it was like Shaun White as well. Um, and it was like snowboarding, but in general, like I think it's cool that you played a lot of snowboarding, jet ski games, and how popular they were also back then, enough to be in arcades. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, in arcades, there's still like the motocross um, games if you're lucky enough to have an arcade around. But or like cruising in the USA. I didn't put that on my list, but that is a honorable mention because there was these places called CC's Pizza. There was like Chuck E. Cheese and these places that had a little arcade section, and there would always be like a cruising in the USA machine that would demand a full dollar or like 75 cents to play, and you would only play one race, but um, yeah, I think that if people have the opportunity to play it in a arcade fashion, definitely Wave Race. Um, that they definitely should. They should check it out.
Yeah, and this is Wave Race 64 is available as part of the N64 expansion pack too. I mean, no, this is not a sponsored stream, don't worry, even though, yeah, probably makes good arguments for trying like a bunch of the games that are available on the Switch Online N64 expansion pack.
Nintendo, if you want to give us free family discount or free family membership, please do. We're not
Yes.
saying that you have to, but if you like us, you know, it's
Yeah,
good.
I wouldn't mind a Nintendo sponsorship, not at all. And Nintendo, if you're watching, could you please someday um add Diddy Kong Racing to your expansion pack? I would love you forever if you did.
All right. Am I gonna take the mic now? Am I
Sure.
gonna? Oh, thank you. All right, y'all. I'm gonna talk about my top 10. It's gonna be all really, really ridiculous games, pretty much. But I do want to just say honorable mentions right now. I'm just gonna go through them real quick. Um, so I'm not even gonna really talk about it. I'm just gonna straight up say them. Tony Hawk, 1 and 2. Gex 64 is also a honorable mention. Iggy's Wrecking Ball, Banjo Kazooie 1 and 2, Pokemon Stadium, and Mario Party 2. Because I do love Mario Party, and we've been talking about Mario Party. But Mario Party 2 had costumes. And yeah, that's those are just honorable mentions. Those aren't actually on the top 10, but yeah. All right, so the first one I'm gonna go through is a game called The Goemon's Great Adventure. It wasn't a they started on the Nintendo, and then they had a Super Nintendo game called Mystical Ninjas, and then on the 64 they had two, or actually they had three Goemon games, and Goemon was made by Konami. And if you know what Robin Hood is, think about Japanese Robin Hood in the Edo era, and it's all about a guy who is kind of like, I wouldn't say he's a good guy or a bad guy, but like he's dating the princess. Um, and something happens to the princess, and there's like a giant evil that happens, and basically you have to defeat it. So yeah, that game has great music. The game's really, really silly. Um, and they have one that's a platformer, and then they have one that's more like 64 3D round. So they have like a side scroller one, and then they got a 3D platformer one. But there's a lot like a quest hunting and scavenging, and I would definitely check that out if you possibly can. And my number two is also Goemon Mystical Ninjas. So Goemon Mystical Ninjas is the second one of the series, and that one you can play with friends. So you can play the entire story mode with a friend right by you. You did need the thing known as a Nintendo 64 expansion pack to play it, and a memory card. So like you had to get this thing that you like launched in the back of your controller, just to save. But it was pretty advanced, very weird, very very weird. But check it out if you possibly can. Kissa, have you heard of these games before?
Actually, haven't heard of those before, but they sound like they'd be really fun.
Yeah. They have a lot of mythology, and like if you like mermaids, there's mermaids and other stuff. So yeah. Um, my number three would be Paper Mario, and I have a little story real quick before I talk a little bit about the game. So long time, I was just a little Robo, and I got this game for Christmas. A little holiday gift. I did not eat or drink anything for 22 hours, and I was left alone. And I got the game after like I had opened it up, and I played it straight. Like actually played it straight and beat the game. And it took me 22 hours. I got a heavy fever because I did nothing else besides play the game. But I loved that game. That game was so fun. I had such a great time with Paper Mario on the 64. And yeah, it was just it was an incredible experience. They had like characters. It was one of the few times there was an RPG that was on the Super Nintendo where characters like had voices that were Mario characters, but on Paper Mario just gave like more life to Toads. They gave more life to Koopas and the environment. Um, there was a lot of reading in the game, and there's a sleeping animation in Paper Mario to where Paper Mario goes to sleep. He just like slides into the little bed, and it plays like the cutest little sound. And I'd be like, "That's really funny," or "That's really cute," and it always brightened up my day. And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I can do things. I just need to rest a little bit. Just let me just slide in bed, be like a good little Mario, and go into bed on time." But yeah, I uh, I loved Paper Mario. I'm not gonna give any spoilers just in case if anyone wants to go check it out. Um, but it is also available on Nintendo Switch. Um, through the expansion pass. Once again, not sponsored, but Nintendo, if you want to give us some free memberships, that would be cool. So Kitsa, have you ever played Paper Mario?
Well, I did only like as a kid, and like I don't know, for some reason, not like totally sure why. You know, like I liked the art style, thought it was adorable with all the little paper cutouts of everybody. Um, I don't know, something about I guess as a kid when I tried to play it, it just didn't like click with me for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's one of those that, like, I've heard, like, it's a classic game, lots of people, absolutely loved and adored it, and, it's available there in the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. So it's kind of one of those games where, even though I didn't necessarily, I guess, get it or really understand it as a kid, I was wanting to maybe try it again as an adult, and I don't know, maybe even stream it or something at some point just to see what I think of it, like, as an adult. Like, if somehow at this point, after having played other actual, like, RPG type games, I might get it now as an adult.
Yeah. I will probably say I think that the game did expect like players to really explore and figure out things. And if you didn't do that, then it was really easy to get stuck. Um, and then even if you did do that, it was still once again really easy to get stuck. And you're like, what do I do? I've talked to everybody in town, and sometimes you would have to go back and you wouldn't even know that. Um, and but the game did have some fun things, like you could cook food. There's like a special dojo where you can like challenge some people, and yeah, yeah, that's pretty much all I'm gonna say. There was like a little shop, and you know what? That's what I loved about Mario Party 1 actually. Is that there was like a little shop that you could buy little dice or little new things. Um, but yeah. All right, continuing on my list. Kirby Crystal Shard 64. Um, that was also a big thing. I think that also is on the expansion pack.
Yeah, it is.
But or the expansion. But yeah, like Kirby 64 was a huge thing because it was Kirby's first. Well, it wasn't Kirby's first way into 3D. There was a few games, technically, but yeah, like Kirby 64. Besides Smash Brothers and another game, Kirby's like real 3D adventure, and the music in that game was super fun. They had like a scavenger hunt where you had to find these crystals, because like a big crystal shattered, and it was kind of like this anime known as like Inuyasha, where you had to find all the different shards to finally like put it all back together.
Yeah, and I know what you're talking
and
about or referencing there because I have seen Inuyasha. Yeah.
and yeah, for the anime lovers here. Um, but yeah, no, in general, it was a fun game. You got to see like an ally and a anti-hero work together, and yeah, check it out if you can. I'm gonna continue on with my number 5, and that would be Star Fox 64. So Star Fox 64 was a pilot game, where once again, if you move up on the control stick, you go down. You move down on the control stick, you go up, and it's where that famous internet meme, "Do a barrel roll," comes from. Um, but really, it was once again one of the few games around that time that had voice acting, and the voice acting was really engaging. They had different personalities, the pilots in the game, and if you were good at the game, or decent at the game, you could actually go through the game in like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Um, but the routes, there was like 4 or 5 different routes, and they all get you different endings, or they give you different story dialogue. So like you go to each level is a planet, and you can only go to certain planets if you do so well on each level, and you do like a secret mission or something. And so, um, on one route, you might engage with a dog in an airplane, and he might be part of the military. He may be like, "Oh, bogey," and he may say, I don't know, military things. And then in another, you might find a pink cat girl that might be your ex or something, and she's being flirty, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I didn't see you in the regular route. I guess you used to be a space ranger or something. But like, just little tab bits, and they'll be part of the level, and it was really fun. The 3D environment, the shooting, everything just seemed really polished, and there's lots of secrets, and um, that's what I love about old game design. Also, it's all the little secrets and little nuggets of joy that they put in. Um, but yeah, so going from there, from being my number 5, number 6, this was also a arcade classic back in the day. It was called Gauntlet Legends. Um, and Gauntlet Legends in the arcade version was not a great experience, though a lot of people liked playing it in the arcade. Um, the 64 version was the most fair version, because when you played it, your health didn't automatically drop, where in the arcade version, you would have like 100 health, and eventually, your health just starts dropping. So no matter what, you're gonna run out of health, and then you have to put more quarters to continue playing. So, um, you could be the most perfect person in the world and not get hit by anything, and you still have to spend like, I think, $20 at least on a 50-cent machine to beat the game. Yeah, oh yeah, Gauntlet Legends. Oh Lord, Gauntlet. You need more food. Um, I don't know if you've played Gauntlet Legends, Kissa, but yeah,
Yeah, I
it was
haven't.
it was an experience.
Yeah, it sounds like an experience.
Um, number 7 is a game made by Enix. It is called Mischief Makers. Mischief Makers was a game, once again, made by Enix before the Square Enix collaboration. And it was a platformer game. And it was about a android girl who wanted to help people save the world and just kind of wanted to do their own thing. And I feel like they were kind of more like mercenaries too, because they got paid in gems, and they had the ability to shake stuff. And I think like you go through like the majority of the game, but then you end up finding out that like you've been beating up good guys halfway. I don't know. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's got like a complicated story. But what was cool about the game is that it was a side-scrolling game, and they would have like little fun mini games. And there was a game where you could play dodgeball with a cat, and a cat would throw a big ball at you, and you could like catch the ball, and you would want to, um, as mean as it sounds, throw a dodgeball at a cat. But it would make you, the game would make you feel bad, because if you hit the cat with the dodgeball, it would cry, and then you're like, oh, why are you making me do this? So, um, yeah, that's Mischief Makers, woo wee. Um, and I was able to play that game because of the thing known as Blockbuster. Blockbuster don't sponsor me. You don't even have a business anymore. Um, okay, so My next one would be a game called Buck Bumble. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Buck Bumble or seen Buck Bumble, but Buck Bumble, or Buck Bumble, was a game about the year 2009, or I think it was like 2006. It was either 2006 or 2009, where they thought that there would be like chemical radioactive waste hitting insects, and then the insects would mutate, and then they like would be able to communicate and then try and take over the world. And somehow you ended up like the government somehow end up getting like a bee and then giving him cybernetic enhancements, and that bee had to go and save the world. So you played the bee to fight off the mutant mine army, and if you were playing 2-player, you got to play soccer for whatever reason as a bee. That's Buck Bumble. Have you heard of Buck Bumble, Kissa?
I haven't heard of it before. Oh, it seems like kind of an interesting, like fun and quirky little game.
Yeah. It was pretty fun. It was pretty quirky. And I will say, not sponsored. Not, I do love like little animations. There's a person named Terminal Montage, and they did a little short of Buck Bumble of basically what the game is. So, if you want a little clip there, watch that after the stream. Not right now, but like after the stream. And then the next one, I will say, my number 9 would be StarCraft 64. So I had StarCraft for the computer, but StarCraft 64 made it available where 2 people would have basically a small computer screen and can play on the same screen against each other all on one like console. And as terrible as that sounds, it wasn't too bad. But like it was just different, and they decided never to try it again. And I kind of understand that now, because like not many games do split screen anymore. But StarCraft has a special place in my heart. I played it all the time. And then number 10. You know what? I'm gonna say Glover. I'm gonna say there was a game called Glover. You were a giant glove. And how that happened is like, once upon a time there was a giant wizard, and I don't know, I think he like somehow was making a cauldron of like spooky stuff, and I think he dropped both his hands in the cauldron, or cauldron, and one glove was like evil, and then the other glove was just a glove, but like both his gloves turned alive. And basically the wizard was like, oh, I don't know where my other hand went or what it's doing right now, so here, have a magical ball. And you had to keep the ball alive in each level and like collect, I don't know, like magic flags or something. And they had like a lot of fun little interesting levels. Like there's like a clown one, there's like a horror one. These like little world hubs, and it was a fun game. And it had fun platforming, and you were just a glove, and that's that, and that's my top 10. Woo-wee. So yeah, I know I picked a lot of games that not many people have played, but I figured I'd do it so then people may be like, you know what, I might check out that game.
Well, yeah, and that's fine to like include a lot of them that you really enjoyed that aren't like the first ones people would think about with N64, because that could very well introduce more people to those. I mean, I've heard of some of those, like I have heard of Glover, even if I've not played it, and I've heard of Mischief Makers too, even though, well, again, I've not played it, but, well, obviously, well, Kirby and the Crystal Shards and Star Fox too, even though I've never played a Star Fox game. And like I have played some Kirby games, like, as a kid, I didn't like get into Kirby then, even if I like later on as an adult started playing Kirby games, and like I played Kirby in the Forgotten Land on the Switch, and I played Epic Yarn. I think that was on the Wii. Thought that one was
Oh, I
adorable.
love Epic Yarn.
But I hadn't actually played Kirby and the Crystal Shards. I mean, I've played maybe a tiny bit of it because of like the Switch Online, but I didn't like finish it yet. Just maybe barely started trying to play it.
Yeah, I will say older Kirby games are kind of difficult. Like not that Epic Yarn wasn't, um, but yeah, like the Kirby games, they're fun, they're unique, but I do have one small thing I would like to say about them is that like if you don't sit down and play them, then it's hard to pick them back up, or it's hard to like get back into the mood.
Well, yeah, I like overall that for the most part, like even if they can get hard in places, they're still pretty fun and cute and chill. I appreciate that very much about the ones that I have played, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you, Kessa, for having me along. Is there anything you would like to say about this wonderful stream? Thank you all very much for showing up, by the way. Is there any questions that you have to ask me, by the way, Kessa?
Okay, well, I guess I might have a question. As someone who like hasn't ever played Star Fox games, like, do you have any recommendations? Like, I can't remember, like, I think there might be some available through Switch Online at the very least, but like, would you have any recommendations for like trying any of those? Just out of curiosity.
I will say, if you have a DS, and you do like the DS, I would try to do like Star Fox 64 maybe on the DS if it's a little bit easier. The original Star Fox 64 game, the reason why, like I said, like if you knew how to play the game, you could just go through the game in like 2 hours, or an hour and a half. But a lot of people struggle with the game because of the difficulty. Definitely near the end. And so yeah, I don't want to exactly recommend Star Fox 64 first, just because of the difficulty spike, but also it might ruin the other ones because the other ones are easier and more user friendly, and it might create a, hey, this game isn't as hard as the original game, so it's hard to play the other ones. I mean, I played the other ones anyways, but I was running into that feeling. So I recommend playing Star Fox Zero or Star Fox on the DS. or Star Fox, the other Star Fox games, pretty much. And then if you want a challenge, I play Star Fox 64.
Yeah, good to know. Thank you for suggestions, because seriously, my only exposure to anything Star Fox is from playing Smash. Since they're like
Yeah.
Fox and Falco are in there.
I do want to say something as an honorable mention. Um, I love Yoshi's story. And I didn't put it on the list, but um I keep looking at my character's hair, my little hairstyle, and I keep thinking it's like a apple from Super Mario World. It made me think about Yoshi and how I didn't mention Yoshi, but I love the Yoshi Island story. I love the Yoshi story for the 64. It's also a very fun game.
Yeah, and it was really cute too. Yeah, I remember that one as well, even though I didn't put it on my top 10 list either. But yeah, definitely an adorable game that was fun.
Any other questions, Kissa?
I don't believe so. And like, was there anything else you wanted to mention? Like, even any honorable mentions or any other things you've maybe thought of later about some of the games you talked about that you might want to add?
Yeah, so um if you never wanted to get into a quirky series Bomberman and you wanted like a good story, I check out Bomberman 64. Um it is, once again, this one is a platforming one, and there's a lot of unlockables, and with those unlockables you can customize your main character and go through the story, like, and be really really fun. And Super Smash Bros. Quest
Oh, and
64. Quest 64 was oof, so much reading. I was lost in Quest 64.
yeah, and I never
But yeah,
played
good
Quest
memories.
64. I mean, even if I've played Smash, I didn't play the Smash Bros on the N64. I didn't play Melee either. Um, well, the first one I ever played was like Super Smash Bros. Like 4 or something. Whatever one was on the Wii U, since I at least briefly had a Wii U. And that's like the first Smash game I ever played. And I like played Ultimate on the Switch, but I didn't play like the earliest games in the Smash series.
You know, one thing I think is interesting is yeah, like plus please crush me is saying, like Golden Eye and Perfect Dark. There are just so many good games on the 64. Like we picked top 10 games, and both of us didn't even mention Zelda Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. And I don't think they really need really much of a promotion, or like I think a lot of people have played them by now. Definitely because when you got a 64 most of the time, you did get Ocarina of Time with it. There were some that didn't come with Ocarina of Time, but as, as popular as the game is, it really undersold during that time. I think probably because of the combo pack, but also um, video games were just expensive, y'all. Like we
Yeah.
we had blockbusters to rent from because of how pricey games were.
Yeah, and I remember, and I didn't like have the Legend of Zelda games on my list either, but um that's kind of one of those things where I didn't start playing or get into the Legend of Zelda games like when I was a kid. I only like started seriously with ones like Breath of the Wild, and then kind of was trying to go backwards and try to find other ones to try after enjoying that one. I mean, I have Tears of the Kingdom too, but yeah, I kind of started with the later, more recent ones with those before trying to find earlier ones and try them to see if I like them, which is why those didn't appear on mine, even though, you know, that might have surprised people too that I didn't have those there, and there are lots of others like Star Fox and, you know, some of the Mario games even that I didn't have on there, but that's because I didn't actually play them. And I didn't actually play the Kirby games other than, like, so far, for the most part, like Epic Yarn and the Forgotten Land. So that's why Crystal Shards wasn't there either for me. But, you know, definitely have lots of good ideas now of like games to try to find and play that I didn't necessarily experience like back then as a kid.
Yeah. And you know, we're not telling people to go and buy these games immediately. You know, once again, they can show up. If you're listening to Tinder, you can also put them on your wonderful platform. But if not just that, in general, you know, games like Mystical Ninjas, like how Please Crush Me is saying, so Mystical Ninjas on the Super Nintendo is in the Europe version, but not in the United States on Nintendo Online, which I think is kind of weird. But yeah, I think that eventually maybe we'll get an opportunity to play some unknown games or some classics, because I think the licensing probably won't be as expensive, or by now it might actually just be expired. But in general, like, the 64 is just a wonderful console. They did so much in a small amount of time, and every game that we mentioned definitely has like a little place in our hearts, especially Diddy Kong Racing, and its time trials and everything else. But yeah, like, if you don't have the money, obviously, to buy the games, do support creators and just watch their content, because once again, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have met the wonderful Kissa, and you know, it's all about the experience and the people and having a good time. So who knows? Maybe we'll end up playing some of these games on stream. Maybe not. No pressure at all. But thank you all very much for watching us and our top 10 and sharing memories. I'm once again very grateful that you had me along, and I had a lot of fun. I hope everyone else had a lot of fun too.
Well, yeah, I really enjoyed this today, Robo, and like, thank you again. I'm so glad that we were able to do this, and I look forward to like doing more collabs with you in the future, whether it's like talking about stuff or playing games together, or, you know, all sorts of other ideas I know we've talked about when thinking about what to do even for this collab that I'd be excited to try to do in the future. I'm glad that, like, you are one of the many people so far that I've met, well, on my journey as a VTuber, you know, and you're one of the reasons why I'm glad I started this. You know, I've met so many wonderful people, including you, like, so far, and, you know, the VTubing community is just wonderful. And, you know, I look forward to more, like, doing more of these, you know, definitely with you in the future. And, you know, thank you
And
again for wanting to do this with me.
absolutely, and I am honored as well. Your community is very wonderful, very sweet, very kind. Um, some say the greatest jokes. You have a very supporting family as well, and I think that's beautiful in its own end. And I'm going to say thank you very much. I guess we'll be wrapping this up, but this won't be the last you hear from both of us together in our collabs. So thank you. I will gladly be a part of another adventure, another stream, another day. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, definitely. We'll be trying to wrap things up, trying to look for someone to raid into. I mean, unless you, Robo, have any ideas of people you know of who are streaming who we could raid right now.
Um, I do actually. Um, yes. So there's a person named Drake. So I'm gonna drop their screen name down below. Um, and they play video games with their family. They're just
Cool.
really sweet. Um, and like I mean they play games with their cousins, their family. They admit that on stream. And I think it's really just kind of cool when um people are able to connect online and are like, yeah, dad, or yeah, cousin, or yeah, whoever, you can play video games with me online. I'm not embarrassed. Or or they're allowed to have people in their streams that support them. I think that's really cool. That you have family people in your life that are like, yeah, I want to watch you stream. That's really great. Um, but yeah, this is the name.
Okay.
Um, Drake underscore UU. And they are playing Dragon's Dogma. So
Okay.
yeah.
Always good to like hear about new people to try to raid into. So I'm about to start that. Thank you everybody for being here today for our collab on our channels talking about top 10 N64 and GameCube games. It's been fun. We hope you've had fun too. Have a good rest of your day or night. And we hope to see you again in another collab soon.
Hooray.
And we're ready to raid. Let's go. Say hi to Drake.